remains and obscured. It remains concealed from its own identity. It must struggle in darkness. Now, in the mystery system, this is a point of great importance, because from the time the entity enters through the gate of Cancer, of birth, to the time when it exits again through Capricorn, it is in a world which is strange to it. It is in a world in which it is being tested for its own immortality. Not that the immortality is threatened, but because until the soul has made this journey, it cannot be safely entrusted with the great truths of life. This is the place or the sphere of learning. And the learning must be gradually based upon one factor only, internal integrities. In the lower hemisphere of darkness or of ignorance, there is no great light available. Almost all of us recognize now the failure of materialism. Well, the lower half of the great circle is the sphere of materialism. Materialism is the ethical darkness. It is the darkness which has resulted from man turning from the ways of light, or refusing to light the darkness by his own conduct. The labor of the individual, therefore, is to bring light into darkness. First, the light coming in himself from his own darkness, and then later bestowing light upon the whole world which is in darkness. Therefore, the great teachers are the light bearers, who must bring light and hope to the dark semicircle of the lower half of the zodiac. Now, in getting into this, then, we find what we know today to be true, that we live in the material world, which is a world of uncertainties. Our facts are very few. Our convictions are numerous and conflicting. We do not, any of us, have the answers to the ultimate. And we are not going to have those answers given to us. We must release them from within ourselves. Therefore, in this hemisphere of darkness, each individual must work out his own salvation with diligence. Those were the last words of the Buddha. We must, each of us, find the light according to our own integrities. To do this, we must have dedication. And this dedication is, whether we realize it or not, bestowed by birth itself. From that time on, we must develop this dedication by personal effort. We must resist every day those forces and conditions which perpetuate darkness. And darkness is always lack of the final form of light, ethics, or the recognition of the essential values of integrities. If the individual goes along this pathway, he comes, as in the Egyptian ritual, finally into the great hall of the twin truths in Amentet, the abode of the great god Osiris. Now, Osiris has as a symbol an eye, and that eye, of course, is the sun. And this eye represents the sun of the underworld. When the individual is in the lower half of the zodiac, the only sun that can shine into his life is from within himself. He must gradually release the great light that was bestowed upon him in heaven or in the divine worlds. In the meantime, if he comes into the hall of Amentet, he stands before Osiris, who wears the plumes of the north and south, that is, the plumes of the spiritual and material halves of the zodiac. The crown of Osiris is inclined exactly to the degree of the solar axis at the present time. In other words, the ancients knew the inclination of the axis. This deity, then, becomes the judge of the quick and the dead. And this deity is the sun in its karmic aspect. The soul of the deceased person is represented by a symbol. And this soul goes into the presence of Osiris to be judged, to be weighed in the balance. And we have here a very interesting series of symbolical rituals, which can be mentioned briefly. First of all, the court of Osiris in the underworld is the place for the assessors or the judges. And this was the origin of the present jury system, where the individual is judged either victorious or defeated by a jury of his peers. In addition to the juries, which sit at the upper end of the great papyrus symbols on the scrolls of the Book of the Dead, there comes forward the defender, the public defender. In this case, the public defender is the one and only son of Osiris, born posthumously after his father's death, therefore called the son of the widow. And this deity, Horus, with the eyes of the solar hawk, stands before his father and asks leniency for the soul under judgment. And as the trial proceeds, this leniency becomes, in a sense, the fact that Osiris' son is going to carry the guilt of the person if he cannot survive the test by his own strength. Then the weighing of the soul takes place, and on one end of the balance is the feather of the law, Mayat, and on the other end is a little vase containing the heart of the dead person. And the dead person's heart cries out in the ritual, "Let me not perish with the body that dies in a day." Therefore the soul asks for consideration and forgiveness. The prosecuting attorney is in the form of Typhon, the mysterious water beast of the Egyptians, a creature combining in symbolism the attributes of a hippopotamus and an alligator. This is the one that is to receive the soul if it is not able to go on to the better life. And of course, to the Egyptians, the meaning was very obvious. This creature that swallows up the imperfect soul is re-embodiment. If it doesn't pass, it must come back. In the meantime, the balance is made, and Horus, the son, pleads with his father, interceding for the soul of the person who has passed on. And then because Horus is the only begotten son of his father is lenient to the world through his son and forgives the soul and permits it to go in peace. It's a very interesting ritual, and has been found in one form or another throughout the whole world. Now, as the scene continues, we know that Libra is the sign of the balance. We know that it is the place where the path breaks between going forward and failing to go forward. In every case, there comes the time when the journey downward into sorrow and fear comes to an end because the soul has achieved a victory over its own weaknesses. It is then weighed in the balance. And if the balance balances, it then goes on into the upper cycles. And this is the reason for the sign of Libra, the scales, being exactly opposite the sign of Aries, which is the symbol of the great winter power. This symbolism then goes on, and we find that the human being is the solar symbol. The human being is the creature that must make the circle of the zodiac inside of itself, not out in the world, but it must perform the 12 labors, and through the performance of the 12 labors, prove that it is ready and worthy to receive enlightenment. So we followed then the time when the sun moves northward. The sun moves northward beginning at the winter solstice. And here it is for the first time starting out on a new journey. Now the Egyptians and the Greeks and the Hindus all knew that